Welcome to the Pitmaster Podcast. We're barbecue competition competitors that aim to share information, advice, tips, and tall tales about our favorite pastime. Head over to thepitmasterpodcast.com for all things Pitmasters, or follow us on your favorite social media platform.
We won the Open in 98, and that was with 400 teams.
The thing is when people tell me, hey, I did your recipe, and my family thinks I'm amazing.
Right? Everything in barbecue, he thinks we are arguing that Jerry Springer is like, I knock on her door, and I say, Sue, got some barbecue for you. And she say, thank you, Tuffy. And just kept going and going and going, and then as time got further along, started winning and doing real well, and then I developed my own line of rubs and seasonings, and it snowballed from there.
Damon had this ridiculous sense of being able to look at a rub and he could name it. I'll never forget, so he looks there and he goes, hey man, I see what you're doing over there. Why got that San Bernardino Docks and Plowboy's bottle? And I was like, are you kidding me?
Here are the hosts of the Pitmaster Podcast, Rusty Monson, head pitmaster of Salt City Barbecue, and the two-time grand champion pitmaster of Smoke Ain't No Joke Barbecue, the Anthony Luan.
Okay, guys, on the show today, we have Shauna Rapolo, who is the grill master and SCA cook, and a really good one at that, out of Shreveport, Louisiana. She's been recognized as the Female Cooker of the Year 2 years in a row, and you won a bunch of competitions. She's top 10, 51 out of 96 of her cook-offs. That's way over half. That's really amazing. And you've also won two of the biggest steak competitions there is, like the NBA QA Rhinestone Steak Showdown in Fort Worth. And you've also recently, after that, you also won a couple more. Tell us about those, Shauna.
Yeah, so the same year that we won MBBQA, that was in March, and then in June, I went to PK Grills cook-off that they hold in Little Rock, and there's usually about 80 to 90 cooks there, and I won that cook-off as well. That's a pretty cool one. They give us a PK 360 as the prize, so I have one of those on my back porch now. But that was a good year. Two big wins that I was really, really proud of, all in 1 year. So. And
it's kind of quite a start to your career too, because being in the points chase your very first year is quite an accomplishment. How did it all get started? Like, where did it all come from?
Yeah. So, my dad originally started cooking, and I would go to cook-offs, and then he got sick and put in the hospital. And so I was sitting in the hospital room with him for a week, and we were just sitting talking, and he had signed up for two more cook-offs the next couple of weekends. So I was sitting there and I told him, I said, I've never cooked a steak. I've watched, but I've never put my hands on it. So but I'll sure give it a try since they were paid for. So we decided that's what I would do, and I went up to Tulsa, Oklahoma for my first cook-off, walked in 9th place. And then the next weekend went to a cook-off in Texas and got second. So at that point, that's when I decided that I needed my own team, and I was going to join everybody and start. And at that time, there weren't but a couple other female cookers that were, cooking a lot. So it was kind of one of those things I, wanted to, since I figured out I would try to do it. So why not do it and push the female cookers to start as well.
Nice. So you pretty much was just in the circuit with your dad, just watching and kind of, I guess, learning on the spot. Then you decided, hey, I got to do this on the fly. Did you have a process down? Did you know what was going on, or did he coach you through it on how to get your process going? How did you learn to jump on the grill, like on the fly like that?
Yeah. It was, that was 1 week. The very next week was the cook-off. So I literally cooked one steak before I went to a competition. I had never put my hands on the steak. I'd never trimmed. I'd never seasoned. I had just watched. So I'd gone to all the cook-offs with him, and timed and knew the process, knew the concept of cooking, but never had done it. So I just bit the bullet and said, let's try it. What's the worst that can happen? Then having fun, you're going to have fun regardless. So, no, I mean, it was literally one cook before and just jumped in, and that's what And now, for new cookers, I think that sometimes could be the best way. Don't overthink everything. Just get in there and try it. And if you succeed the first time, great. If not, know that there's always room to get better and that you're learning. We learn every cook-off that we go to. You learn something new. So, jump in there and do it. But that's what I did. I sure didn't know anything but concept.
Nice. So we're going to fast forward a little bit to current times. From what I've heard is that you are the trim queen from your friends. You know how to trim and get your steak all prepared. I'm a tire. Rusty is more of he ties and then puts toothpicks all over it. Wagon wheel, maybe one of your D&D attack weapons. What's your process on getting a steak ready to hit the grill?
I used Gorilla Glue for a while, and then it just, I guess, I kept on getting really terrible taste scores.
Well, Greg Rempe was confused on what you were doing as well. So let's
right.
So
well, and I have never used meat glue on a steak. I know some people have, but I just I trim. I'm I trim for a while. Like that's probably the longest process of me getting a steak ready. And I do tie all my steaks. I prepare both steaks regardless of whether I know. Most of the time when you're picking a steak, you know which one you're going to turn in. There are times over the years that you're going to get to and either they're both not, great. So you trim them up and see which one turns out and looks better, the one that you want to turn. But regardless, I'm trimming both. I'm tying both. I want them both to look like I would cook them to turn in for the judges.
Nice. One more question, Rusty. I'm not taking over. But,
Go ahead,
so my son and I, we had a competition. Rusty was there as well too, but we had a competition. His steak looked great, but on the back end, on the loin side, it curled just a little bit. What would cause that? I've never seen it before. It was the first time he's ever had that issue. What would cause that kind of to curl on the edge of that back steak? It was just on one spot.
So a lot of times when you're tying, you've got to make sure that your tie is not too tight. Once your steak goes on the grill, it's going to expand. So it will get pretty tight on the string. And if it is too tight, you're going to see an indentation all the way around your steak, and it does cause it to curl because there's just so much pressure on that steak. And so, when it's on the finalis end, it's not a big deal. But when it's on an appearance end, it makes a difference. It makes that steak look completely different. So always make sure there's enough slack in your tie that sometimes you can like push your steak down some to kind of feel how much bigger, how much it's going to expand before you cook it to create that shape. But just know it is going to expand and get tight around that on that string.
That's an awesome tip to push down on. That's a good tip.
That's way cool. And so I've actually seen your trimming because you have a class on Barbecue Champs. We're going to get to that later in depth.
Okay.
So, which is a great class, by the way. And I saw the process of your trimming it, but one thing you did not do is sear a steak, and you don't sear steaks. And we've been talking about this, and we have actually talked about this because we had an error on our part today. So we had to record a portion of this podcast. So I already know the answer, but
and I doubt my answer's changing. Huh?
I was hoping in the past 10 minutes it might have. So we had talked about Greg Rempe had mentioned that, they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit by not allowing, what he's going to do. You can't control this. Like in KCBS, you can't control the people using A9s and Wagyu. You just can't.
Right.
So it's one of those things, but everyone's kind of so indentured into seeing these grill marks. And if people could sear a steak or do something else, it really limits your ability to use any cooker, So what is your thoughts on searing it? Have you ever seen it happen? Would you do it in a competition?
So I have seen it at a competition. I've seen it a couple times. I believe someone was successful once that I have heard. I was not at that cook-off. But searing a steak, they are pretty steaks. And then in a judging class, they are taught, not to judge a steak based on those marks and on the grill marks, because you can have a pretty steak without it. But my issue with that, and you always want the judges to know that, but you eat with your eyes, and if you're eating with your eyes and you've got 15 steaks coming in with these pretty grill marks, and then you've got one that doesn't, your eye is trained and it's seeing what a steak, I don't want to say should look like, but that's what they're all, the uniform steak. Now the marks may look different, but it's still marks, and people perfect those marks. So seeing one come in without, I just don't see that being a way of the future of SCA, but I never want to discourage someone from trying something. It's just not the norm.
Shauna, they said that about America one time too. And look what happened.
Right.
We could never be a country. And we look at us now, prospering.
Rusty, she said there's a shot, man. She said you have a chance to do it. And Greg Rippey said he'd pay your entry fee if you do it.
Right.
If you win.
I'm going to do it.
You have to win, though.
Here's the thing, though, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait a year. I'm going to get all the judges Christmas gifts and just random gifts for me. Like, hey, guys, I love you. And then I'm going to sear a steak, and I'm going to tell them I'm searing a steak, and I'm the only seared steak. And they're going to, no, that's cheating, I think, right?
No. You told Greg I'm
telling you, I'm
rewound it. You said you're going to do it this year.
What I'm trying to say is if I'm the only one searing a steak, they're going to know it's me, the judges.
So we need somebody else to do it.
Butter the judges up.
Maybe we could have a cook-off and get everybody on board.
Yeah.
And everybody sears their steak and doesn't use Grill Grate.
The revolution. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about, Sean. That's the revolution right there.
You should name it. Hashtag this.
Hashtag
on the fly. Come on, get
sear
it.
your steak.
SCA sear.
Okay, it's
the only thing is that I love Grill Grates for more than just the marks. So maybe we would have to find you could turn them over.
Yeah,
that would still help
over.
With your heat, with your even cooking.
So just curious for people out there looking to get into this, there is so many options out there to be able to get a grill. So you have PK grills, you have Hasty Bakes, M grills, Traeger, Weber's, so many options. People are cooking on and out of ammo cans. Realistically, I have $300 in my pocket. Which route would be the best and probably be the most successful route for me to buy for a steak cooker?
God, that's kind of a hard, just because I started out on a Weber and did well on a Weber. A Weber is a great grill. PK is just one. Weber doesn't travel as easy. It's not as portable. I mean, it is portable, but it's just bulky. But Weber's a great grill. But and then I went to PK, and I have not, other than going to World Food and cooking on the gas grill, I haven't tried all of the other grills. But a PK, it's an amazing grill. I would have to push that just because I've had so much success with it. The grill that I currently use is my original one that I got in 15, right when I started cooking. And it looks like I've had it that long, but it'll be there forever. So you spend that $350 or you said whatever it is, and you're going to have it forever. It's not going to go bad on you. Funny story, mine actually got run over on the hinges, the top of it. No. I left it out, and a friend of mine that he cooks, he ran over it with his truck, and I don't let him live it down. So it broke. It clean broke on the hinges and broke, so we had to go get it welded. It has it's got character to it now, but it works fine. It went right back together. So between durability, the success of a PK, I know a lot of people are starting to cook on Hasty Bakes, the C4s, the M grills. I actually do want to get an M grill, the C4, and try it. Talking about portability.
Mm-hmm. You can get on an
that
airplane
would be-
because we went down and cooked with
Right.
Travis, and I brought that
Yeah,
C4
like-
back on an
Yeah,
airplane.
I just went and
On an
checked it out
airplane.
today. It's nice and lightweight. It's really cool, man. I asked Rusty if I could borrow it to try, and he shut me down. He's like, "No, I need to practice." I'm like, "Sorry, I just wanted to try it one time."
Yep. So that's the thing. A backyard cooker, they may not want to spend that much, because most of those are, $300 to $400. But if they want something that'll last and be good forever, the PK is a good one for sure. But,
And I like the space on it, the design. And when I'm cooking at home, I like to do the Aaron Franklin thing and line my coals up with a good log next to it with a really aged grass fed steak. I'm serious. That's how I'm bougie as hell.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's just how I am. But that's what I like, and the PK is perfect for that.
yeah, and it's an easy 2-zone. Turn it into a smoker.
Yeah.
If you want, and the space is good. Yeah, I like it for an all around grill. The 360 that I have is awesome too. And some people cook on those at cook-offs. It's just not. It's harder to travel with.
Yeah.
But it's a great grill as well.
So what else? I mean, like everyone gets grill grates. Let's kind of skip that one because I think that's kind of a given at this point. If you get anything, you get a grill grate, and if you don't know, you need to know that, right?
Yes, absolutely. You've got to have grill grates, and not just for the appearance of the steak. It just helps out on even temp grilling, your flare ups. That's a backyard thing too. Cooking burgers, cooking anything. I tell all my friends, like, go get grill grates. Like, you will stop your big fires in your grills just from that. It's not just to make your food look pretty. Like, there's so many more benefits to them.
I do miss a good burnt burger though.
Yeah. It's the crunch.
I do
With
miss
all
it.
right.
With the lighter fluid taste,
Crisp edges.
just
right.
brings me back, like John Denver songs, just brings me back.
So I kind of have a question for both of you. Either one of you guys can answer this. So the grill grates, Rusty knows I'm OCD on all my equipment. It has to be clean, perfect, pristine before I use it. I am having the darndest time to make sure those grill grates are clean before every competition. How are you guys cleaning those thoroughly? I'm in there with a wire brush, and I even hit mine with a razor blade to make sure it was evenly
Before or after?
before.
Before.
So I'll use them, and then I want to clean them at the end of the competition. How are you getting? I like it like spot clean, almost like brand new. What's the best way to clean these bad boys up?
I'm going to say go Shadon.
Well, I am not OCD when it comes to that, but I do know a few ways that people have cleaned them. So I've even put them in a gas grill or an oven. Actually, the oven, I know a few people that put them in their oven on self-clean mode, and it totally just gets them real hot. And cleans them that way. I put them on my gas grill that I have at home, and when it gets up, it gets really hot. They turn white, and then you brush all that white off, and it helps clean them that way. I've heard so many different ways. People putting them in, putting them in a bucket of dishwashing soap and things that I can't. I have to be honest that my grates stay on my grill. And they get a wire brush to them.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I see people flipping them over too at the end, flipping them over. That way
That's
everything
what
drips
I
out.
do. After every
Yeah.
cook, the second I
Yeah,
can, I flip them upside down.
Because
And I leave that vent open as long as I can to really get that heat.
Because I wire brush them at the end, but I'm just like, there's a little chunk. It's good imperfection. It's just me being weird. But
Well, you're totally weird about that. And so he's always judging me about stuff. Oh, there's a wrapper in your car. It's just from McDonald's. Like, give me a break.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just like, I feel if your grills look good, you're going to cook good. So I make sure all the stuff is clean all the time.
Okay. I agree. It actually, and you talk about it in your class actually.
Yep.
And so, yeah, grill grates. But what else is super important? I mean, what is something you can't live without? I will say one thing I learned from you is, and this is where the time stick comes in from ThermWorks. That was unreal. But what's something else? Like maybe you can talk about that a little bit, but some tips or something you have to have as a new recipe.
Yeah. So you joked about lighter fluid a while ago, but So in place of that, I use the Weber lighter cubes. That I really don't know if I got to a cook-off. I guess I would find some paper or something, because I'm not going to use lighter fluid on there. So those little lighter cubes are a huge benefit to have. The time stick, timing is big. You've got to know, and it changes with your cook, with the size of your steak. So that's big. I'm very big on timing. Even when I cook at home, I'll use a timer, or at least put a timer on things. So that's big. Let's see. It's good. Well, depending on what kind of grill you have, they all are a little different. But with the PK, it comes with a little more rack. There's lots of cooks that I go to, and I use that. And some people, that's another method of cooking as well, as timing your 4 turns to a specific time, knowing you're going to put it up on the rack and bring it up to temp slowly. So that's something I don't leave home without as well.
So I have one quick question though. When you're cooking and you're flipping and you have a certain time in your mind and you have a certain temperature in your mind, you're in Louisiana, and I used to live in New Orleans, and you're literally below sea level. So you're really looking up at ships going, oh, cool. Eating your beignet and looking at a ship that could just run you over. Like the first time you ever worried about a ship running you over. What kind of experience have you had with that in elevations?
I haven't. So the heat is elevation. I really haven't been a lot of places that it's different. Well, I take that back. I did cook, and it was different. I did cook in Minnesota. Went up there, and totally different cook. I felt like I couldn't get my steak up to temp. I turned in like with 10 seconds to spare at that cook off, because I'm so used to down here. A lot of times your steaks cook really fast. And I feel like elevation is part of that. There's just a different elevation, your humidity, your temp, just everything is different.
I had someone try and read something to me, and it was scientific. And so he automatically lost me. But right. I guess there was something to it. I wish I would have read it now and listened, because I know a lot of California guys that came out to this KCBS cook out here were having a really hard time with the same thing you just mentioned, because they're used to cooking in California on the coast, and that's nothing. It's like 500 feet above sea level, and they were having a hard time cooking it. So, a lot of these people, like, traveling around, especially in Utah, we have to travel a lot. So we have to really worry about that kind of stuff. Did you feel like it was just the heat was hard to get your up to temp, maybe start a little earlier, or was it just wasn't going?
I really don't. I had only cooked up there once. Everywhere else I've cooked has been in the South, so we're pretty much the same. Cooked in Florida once, but it wasn't like Minnesota either. So I honestly can't, have a true thought on that, other than that one cook. So maybe I can imagine it's different.
I'll find the science and I'll read it. It's going to give me a headache. I have a headache right now just thinking about it. I'm a very just simple. I don't want to overthink, what I'm doing. The whole cook in general, and that's something that I think people, I've done it myself, over the years. You start trying new things, and just last year and this year, I've told myself, go back to the basics, quit overthinking, just do what what you've learned. Don't let people get in your head. We all want to learn, and we can learn at every cook-off, but when you start second guessing what works, you're not going to do as well. So I've had to tell myself that constantly, to just keep it simple. And I know, we know how to cook a steak. We know what we're doing. So don't put too much into it that you start second guessing what you're doing. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you don't have to air it all out there because we want people to go to your Barbecue Champs Academy to learn everything. But let's talk about doneness. The only way you're going to win an SEA competition is if you hit the perfect doneness. My question is, when it comes to doneness, it's so broad on the social media when it comes to the resting point. Do you rest on a tabletop? Do you rest it in foil? Do you put it in Cambro? Right. Let's just go over doneness. Let's win by talking about doneness.
Doneness, oh man, how many conversations can you have about doneness?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Let's make it real straight to the point, kind of easy.
So yes. Yeah, everyone's got opinions and thoughts, and not saying nobody's wrong. It's what works for them. But I personally, your doneness, it depends on the weather too. You know, when you're hot, the steak is going to rise some. You have to take that into account. When it's cold, it's not. It may come up 2 or 3 degrees. But when it's hot outside, it may jump 5 to 7, if not more, you know, depending on the day. But doneness, I rest. I'll rest between 5 and 10 minutes. You know, it's not going to hurt your steak to rest. Now, there have been times that if I get it done and I pull it and it's more done than I want, I will rest it and vent it a little bit just to prevent it from rising that much more. Resting is big though on your doneness. So and temperature wise, you know, it's no secret. Like everyone pulls different temps as well. I tend to try to pull, you know, around 132, 134, just depending on the day and how much I think it's going to rise. So, you know, when we did a few weeks ago, when we were in Chandler, Texas, when we did the Wagyu, the strips, I actually pulled that steak at 129.
Wow.
But, you know, and when I turned it in, it was right around 132, 133. So it didn't rise that much. Now, you know, strip is a different cut, obviously, so it'll do different. But those are things you take into account. Doneness is just a very hard category. And I don't know that there's one answer on what to do with it. You know, today you can pull it and, you know, let it rest and it's perfect. And then tomorrow you do the exact same thing, and that piece of meat, every piece of meat is going to cook differently. And that's something too that I tell a lot of people at cook-offs. When you get 2 steaks, when you're picking those steaks out, unless you pick out 2 almost identical steaks, if you're able to do that, when you cook that, if you cook a practice steak, which I very rarely do anymore because of this, but when you cook a practice steak, it's got to be pretty much the same as your turn-in steak, or what you're not working on, you're not seeing doneness because that other steak's going to cook different. Your flavor would be what you're looking at if you have 2 different steaks. So that is something. Now, if you have 2 close to the same type of, what am I trying to say, the thickness of your steak, then doing a practice would do well. You'll know how it cooks. But that is my thought on doneness as far as doing a practice steak versus, and a lot of people do practice steaks, but my biggest, that would be advice, you know, make sure you're trying to pick 2 steaks that are pretty close in size so you can practice on that doneness.
Nice. So I'm not a pro or anything, but I'm going to try to start looking at lighting. Our last competition, the judges were in a really dark tent. Some just because they had to be outside, but sometimes they judge inside under like these really bright fluorescent lights. I'm wondering if lighting has a lot to do with that doneness score. So I'm going to try to factor lighting in. I'm going to go see where the judges kind of sit, you know, kind of make my adjustment there because they were judging in a dark tent this last time. So
yes, it makes a huge difference. And you'll see a lot more people are starting to ask, you know, where are they judging? I know some cook-offs here, like when Michelle Dang and some of the ones here, they actually carry lights with them to set up. So it's more even at every cook. You know, the lighting is the same at all the cooks. But that's a new thing. You know, that's not all of them do that. So lighting is big. Yeah, that doneness will look totally different depending on where they're at. And to you too, think about that if you're cooking that practice steak, if you're cooking if you have a red tent, you know, your steak is going to look totally different than a white tent. So I know that most people don't think about what, you know, it's like a tent is a tent, you know, but if you're looking at your doneness, you better think about, even your setup.
You're in a red tent. You're like, it's perfect. You go out, it's like, well done. You're like, dang it.
Well, Christy from Girls Can Grill, she said she got rid of her orange tents because it'd mess up her social media photos when we talked to her about that. So
it's interesting.
Yeah.
I want to go back though for just a second. You mentioned you don't cook a practice steak. That's fascinating to me. Why? It's just because you're just like, I got this so dialed in, I don't need to, or do you think does it hurt you somehow?
I think I overthink. When going back to that overthinking process, you know, I always did. And another cooker and I were talking one day a couple of years ago, and he said, I don't cook a practice steak. I start second guessing everything that I just did, and wonder, you know, and from the doneness to just the whole process. He said, just do it. Just go for it. You're cooking it. You know what to do. You know your process. So do it. And then, you know, that's why you prepare that second one as well. You know, so if something does happen and you're not happy with that first steak, you do have a second one to come back on. But I started doing that, and I just, my stress, you know, that adrenaline, like it's all done. And I would prefer to not cook a practice. And I will go back and say I did cook a practice on that New York strip because I'd never cooked a strip before. Before I cooked it that week, but before in competition. So I did do that. And I think it may have helped me, you know, some to know what I was looking at. But as far as the ribeye, it's more of the overthinking and second guessing what I'm doing is why I don't cook a practice. I'm
going to do the same thing because that's me. I stress way too much. And it's funny,
you're stressing about the SCA in a month away right now.
Yeah, I'm already losing sleep. But I think
I do. And I don't like that. Like I just, you know, I'd rather get it done. And now I've got an 8-year-old daughter. So when she's with me, she cooks my second one.
Oh, nice.
She likes to cook. So I leave it for her to cook.
That's great. And when I do practices, I notice my first steak, I always get almost right. And I always kind of mess the second steak up a little bit. I have noticed that it's not all the time, but it's, you know. That's exactly right. You like nail the first one, and then now you're overthinking, like, I have to do it just like that. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to do two at the exact same way. You know, something's going to change about it. So, especially your temp, you're opening that lid, you're pumping air into it, and it's going to get warmer. By and I take 2 grill grates because I have one clean one. Well, they're both clean, but I put one for the practice steak, then I take that one off and get the other one going. I can just eliminate all that. Yeah. Now you're messing with temps everywhere. Yeah. Speaking of temperatures, so I'm going to be searing, so it doesn't make a difference. True. That's right. So speaking about temperatures with the steak, so this was our first. We're new to the SCA here in Utah because it's not. Last year we only had one. This year we're gonna have possibly 7. Yeah. So, wow, that's awesome. This last competition, 37 teams, COVID environment. We're all spread out. Super slow selection. It's 90 degrees outside. Everybody's steak seemed like their first one overcooked. Do you chill or room temp your steak? What's the proper procedure during that raw preparation? Because I felt like all of our steaks kind of overcooked because we're in 90-degree weather standing out there. The steaks were probably exposed to the air for, what do you think, Rusty, an hour? Yeah, it takes a long time to do steak at selection. 90 degrees. So, oh, for sure. So when it is hot outside,
We did it just a few weeks ago. Once the summer hits, well, I'll get my steaks. If you can tell if they're already relaxed and they're, it's going to be hard to trim. So I get back to my tent, I throw them directly into a cooler. I keep them in that cooler, let them draw back up, firm up a little bit. And then once they're cold again, I get them back out to trim them. And I'll even, being hot, 90 to 100 degrees, I'll trim and put them back in the cooler. Try to keep them, and I'm, season them. Once I season them, I try to leave them out. But yeah, I think a few weeks ago, they stayed in the cooler most of the day. I kind of changed the process because of that. My process of trimming, seasoning, that sort of thing, but changed. So yeah, they stayed in the cooler until I got ready, and then pull them out, let them get to back to room temperature right before you cook. You definitely don't want to put a steak on that's completely, just flopping. You've got to have some kind of shape to it. And when it's that hot outside, you've got to keep it cool.
Yeah. Well, we were kind of in a weird spot too. Cook's meeting was at 5:00. Turn-ins was at 7:30. It was a small window.
A quick turnaround. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Was it a Friday night cook?
Yes, it was, because we had KCBS the next day. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those fast turnarounds, that'll keep you on your toes.
That's why I bring a cryovac.
That's hard.
I bring a cryovac that, gets it down to 0 and freezes it.
Freezes
seconds. You should try it. I'm serious. Try it. It's great.
No, I'm not going to go with Rusty.
And I know y'all are in the opposite of that when it's cold outside.
Mm-hmm.
You will see all of us putting them in the trucks with the heaters on because they are too cold. So it's all about the outside temperature.
So let's chat a little bit about this class of yours you have on the Barbecue Champs Academy. I said that I purchased the class. I've watched it. I learned a lot. No, we haven't really covered a lot of what you do on this podcast yet.
Awesome.
And you have a lot of information in there, and it's a really, really good class, and it's very affordable. I mean, if anyone out there has, I can't remember who said it, but on one of our podcasts, but if you want to go do a class and you're having a hard time with steak and you want to take a class, skip a contest, take the money you would have got to do that class or that contest and take a class. And I would highly suggest yours. So how did that all come about? How was that for you?
Yeah. So, that is a great point with, one class on Barbecue Champs is the steak is $149. Our SCA, our entry fee is $150. So, that's an awesome way. And they're very affordable. So the whole concept, Mike Steele he came up with the idea, and came to me, and we talked about it, and said, would you like to, teach a class online? And said, sure. That was one of my, kind of a mission and a goal, when I started cooking was I want to get out there, and I wanted more females to cook. And now there are a lot, not just because of me, just more, your husband and wife teams and different things. A lot more women are cooking. But as I started cooking and with my group, I realized I enjoy teaching, and telling people everything that I know. We learn from each other, and the processes, but teaching, I get it. I feel, you feel accomplished. I want to help somebody. So when we did those classes, it was a lot of fun. Now, and I encourage, a lot of people to go online. It's barbecuechamps.com. There's multiple, now there's me, there's John Lindsay, Terry Roan. We all have, and they're all awesome cooks, as well. And then all the barbecue guys. So it's a great way to learn, and like you said, if you're a new cook and thinking about getting into it, it's so affordable, $149 for one class, or, pick up the pork chops as well. And that's the thing. And a lot of cook-offs, there's kid cooks, and the kids cook pork chops. So that was kind of our thought, behind my classes was, if your kid's wanting to cook, you've got 2 classes for $169 and 2 people in the household are learning to cook. And it's a true tell-all, because I love to teach. There's no secrets, you come to a cook-off, I'm going to show you things. If you want to know something, I like learning from people. So I hope that I can teach a lot of people as well.
Yeah, and I learned a lot of crucial things I'm not going to get into here. You'd have to go to the Barbecue Champs and look at that.
Just go to the website.
Yeah, watching that class though, it really, you should say it was like a before and after picture, like of me. It's like, oh, I do this, and then I saw your class, and now it's like rough. Now I have all this. Look at this. Yeah. Look at me now. So really, really cool class. So what would you say? Just kind of run this interview out today. You're a new SCA cook. Brand new to the sport, or you're just barely getting into it, maybe you've done one and you haven't done well. What are a couple of tips you can leave them to kind of, step up their game? Obviously taking the class is huge, but besides that, maybe 1 or 2 tips you can give someone.
When people ask me about just basic, tips to cooking, I always go to the room temperature steak. That's big. And find seasonings. Don't be afraid to put flavor, on your steaks. People, that I've cooked for, just friends, and they're like, oh, my steak is good. And then you give them a lot of flavor. It's like, oh, that was really good or different. I said, so don't be afraid to put some flavor out there. Try different seasonings, try a lot of, different ways to do that. Room temperature, I don't know that, thyme is the must, but it sure helps, it helps me, that it keeps the shape, of the steak. And then as far as, not just it's like going to tools, not just any knife. That's a big thing, having a good sharp knife and making sure you're paying attention, to how you're trimming. Of course, I'm going to go to trimming because I think that goes along with your appearance. Every part of your score matters, especially if you're new cooks and you're wanting to know these little tips, of how people are succeeding. Those things make a huge difference.
So I lied when I said it was the last question because I wanted to ask one.
There we go.
What? Hey, listen, everyone, listen to me. I'm going to give you some life advice. This isn't Pitmaster or anything. Be like water. All right. You got to just flow in life. Okay. If you have a question when you said it was the last question, ask the question. That's what I say. I want to go back, and this is completely out of thing, but we're talking about steak selection. I had a question in my head and I forgot to ask it, but I really want to know. Are you a try-hard person, or what do you look for in a steak when you're selecting it? I really want to know that. So
great question. I can't believe we hadn't hit on that.
I know. That's why I want to stop.
Steak selection. So from the beginning, so when I started, I was a spinalis cook, talking about like evolving, changing. I learned to cook spinalis steaks. Then I went to tries. My eye still goes to tries. I am a try person, but I do believe sometimes, it's tries are so much more tender, but I also feel like they're a little harder to cook, in my opinion, just because of where you're going to cut for doneness. There's a few more factors in there. But when your eye gets trained to a try, it's hard to get away from that. So I would say still, that if there's a good try on the table, that's probably the one I'm going to pick.
And I had a problem with that because when I cut into the tries, one was medium rare and the other one's medium, so your middle, that was my problem, was I couldn't get them both consistent together, and I didn't want to have that look off,
Right. So, and now that we put the steak in the box, how we want them to cut it, there again, that's one more factor, that however you put it in that box, that you know that they're cutting 50-50. So make sure it's positioned where they're going to cut through the entire loin and not, or try not to, get into that third muscle, because it's going to cook differently. It's more tender than the loin part. So you want them to look at a full loin cut, which is sometimes really hard on a try.
Yeah, it is. And
yeah, you got to sacrifice a little bit of spinalis to come more up into the box.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So, yeah. And, I think if I seared mine. Sorry, I had to just put that one
You'll
in.
have to let us know when you go to a comp and sear, so we can watch for the award.
You'll know if he wins. Trust me. It's going to be huge. It might go viral.
It will. I'll be so happy.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it though. It's going to happen. I'm going to sear it. The sear revolution starts, and it started on this podcast.
There's your hashtag.
You'll be part of that.
There's your hashtag.
That's right.
It could be like,
Sear
I was in the
revolution.
podcast where this started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where the revolution was not televised. It was podcastized.
There you go.
Well, Shauna, we do appreciate your time. And again, you guys can go take her class on barbecuechamps.com, and trust me on this awesome resource. Mike, the way he asks questions, it's like he's reading my mind. It's like, I'm like, what? Oh, he just asked it. Okay, cool. And he keeps that going. And it's just a really, really fun breakup. I need to take the pork when I haven't got that yet. I'm a huge pork fan. So maybe I'll have to
absolutely
do an
go
add-on
get it. It's a great class. And, and then too, if you do the all access, I have a Facebook page. So then you've got the access to ask me questions at any time that you want, about cooking. And so that's a good benefit as well.
That's awesome too, especially when you're first starting out, because that's a great evolution. Hey, I tried this, and what can I do different? And so you answer all those questions, like, so you can go into that. Let's just talk about that Facebook. I see you have to be like water.
Yeah, like water.
Be like water. So let's say I bought it and I'm on the Facebook page and I ask you a question. You just pop on and just no holds barred, whatever you want to know, just gets answered.
Yep, just ask. And that's. We're pretty quick to answer it. Obviously it gives us a notification, but that's what it's for. It's the only people in that group or on that page are the ones that have bought the all access. So you're cooking, you're taking a class. If there's something I didn't answer, ask it. Or if you get a steak and you're not sure what to do, or get opinions on it, throw a picture on there, and we'll talk about it. How to trim it, how to season it, what's your, whatever process. If you're at a cook-off, that's, the other good thing about these videos is you can have it on your phone. Once you purchase them, they're yours forever. So go to a cook-off, pull it up. If you don't have time for that, get on the Facebook and ask a question. So there's
That's
so many
cool.
ways, and it's easy access, to me to get questions answered.
That's awesome. Okay, now I'm serious this time. We do appreciate your time. Sorry about the mix-up. We had like a little audio version on my end, and we appreciate your patience and your kindness. And it was really awesome talking to you, and we hope to run into you down the line, because I know I'll be traveling to an SCA cook. So I don't know about Anthony.
Yeah,
I might go every once in a while.
Yeah, you never know. Awesome. Know. All right, Shauna.
Yeah, it is a trip, but it was nice talking to y'all, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
all right.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yep.
All right, guys.